Hey everyone, Panfish Guy, and welcome back to PFG Fishing. We are continuing our spider rigging series, a few tips and tricks to help make your spider rigging experience easier and or less chaotic. I have 14 tips and or tricks that will help you with your spider rigging, help make spider rigging easier, help you save gear, help you have success spider rigging. So hey folks, we're out here going to do a couple demonstrations for our tips and tricks video. In our last video, our last video, I talked about riggings, and I told you about the B&M rigs that I use. These rigs are designed in such a way that they can help you get unsnagged. Let's just show you an example. Let's just say we're trolling along here and I get hung up on a piece of wood, and my sawhorse is going to be my example of some kind of structure that I get snagged on. Here I am, I'm snagged on this. So these are designed in such a way that simply by dropping the weight, it will help you get unsnagged. So I got that 1/4 ounce weight down below that hook, right? And see, I'm hung in there pretty good, right? So simply by taking the tip of that pole and dropping that that thing comes right off of there. Handy stuff to have. I mean, but these are designed that way, and the 1/2 ounce are even more effective, 3/4 ounce are even more effective because they got more weight to drop. So just a little tip there. The other thing we wanted to go over was I talked about the light wire hooks that are on these things. These light wire hooks, they bend pretty easy. So say that hook drop thing doesn't work for you, and you want to go ahead and you're going to go ahead and try to get unsnagged otherwise, and you might have to apply a little pressure to that, but so long as you're using a good heavy test line. So when you set up your spider rig rack, and like I got this T-bar set up here, right? And when you set up your rack, you want to make sure that it's not way up here where you got to reach it. I'm sitting right on the middle of my seat here, and you can see I can reach right up here and just grab anything off there, but I still got a little leg room if I need to stretch my legs, or if I need to get up and walk to the back of the boat or run to the back of the boat, depending on the situation. I got that covered, right? I've actually found that if I take my finger and just kind of lay it here on the rack, sometimes when the fish are biting real light or got a lot of choppy water and waves and wind and everything, it's kind of hard to see, even with these bobbers. I've actually found if I just take my finger and lay it here on the rack, that if you get a little fish that starts pecking at your line or at your bait, you can actually feel that vibration when they're thumping it. So another tip I got for you then is this: no matter what type of rack you have, you want to set your poles up in such a way that you don't have much sticking out of the back here, right? So you got, maybe an inch sticking out of the back of this hoop on the back here. So by leaving it up a little farther, just where the back of the pole is just inside the hoop, when you go to lift it up, it comes right out. Instead of having to lift it up and then fight with this, pull forward, and then get it out. And it just makes life a lot easier. Don't set your poles too far back, because I've lost a lot of fish having them like that. So you just got to make sure you get them set in there right. The other thing you want to do when you're out spider rigging, and particularly if you've got a lake where you want to leave yourself a clear path to the back of the boat. You want to have that clear path to the back of the boat, because if you say, for instance, you get snagged and the weight drop thing doesn't work for you, and maybe you can't bend the hook out right away, chances are the only way you're going to get that line unsnagged without breaking it off is to run to the back of the boat, to kind of get back even with the snag and try to pull it off of there. Maybe bend the hook out. The boat doesn't stop moving. Leave yourself a clear path to the back, because you're gonna end up running back there. And I'm gonna show some examples on some of my videos. You're gonna end up running back there and trying to get yourself on the snag. So leave that path to the back of the boat. You get stuff under your feet, you're gonna fall down, fall out of the boat, hurt yourself, hurt your buddy. The other thing that happens in a circumstance where you're spider rigging and you're cruising along, the wind's blowing behind you, and again, this is all about the boat not being able to stop. This pole gets snagged. I dropped the weight and it won't come off, so I got to find another way to get that unsnagged. I couldn't bend the hook out either, and the boat's getting right on top of it. So I'm gonna take that pole, I'm gonna drop it down underneath my rack, and hopefully you're able to see this. I drop it under my rack, hand it out however many poles I got here. I bring it outside the rack and outside the other lines. Then I can run to the back of the boat, or maybe I can get enough off to the side that I can go ahead and pull it off from my seat here. But if not, I'm running to the back of the boat and trying to get that thing unsnagged. So but if you insist on trying to get it unsnagged from where it sits on the rack, you're gonna find yourself breaking off a lot of stuff, or maybe even breaking a pole, because like I say, you're out on real foot in a 15-20 mile an hour wind. Boat ain't stopping. It's gonna go right over the top of it. So your alternative is pull that pole underneath your other poles. And in this, real foot we'd have 8, right? So you're going all the way outside of these poles out here, and then coming back around the back of the boat to try to get that loose. And it's pretty effective in getting the poles, or getting unsnagged. Your percentage of keeping your rig tied on and everything is going to go way up by doing that. This clip is an example of 2 of the tricks we're discussing in the video. Donnie actually handed his pole underneath the rack and outside of his other poles, and then ran to the back of the boat to get it off his snag. So I want to talk about setting your depth when you're spider rigging. I've got myself a bead on my for my slip bobber here, right? So I can set that bead to whatever depth I think I want to fish. Say I want to set my bead on my rig at 4 foot deep, right? And I start trolling down the lake. When the boat starts moving, this thing starts angling up a little bit. Unless you got a 3/4 ounce or an ounce or a 2 ounce weight on that thing, the movement, the momentum of the boat, this thing starts angling up. So where you think you're right off the bottom at 4 foot here, all of a sudden you're riding this thing kind of comes back up at an angle, and your jig's sitting 3.5 foot deep, or 3 foot deep if you're going faster, right? So you gotta kind of compensate for the angle, the speed that you're going, for the angle where that bait's going to sit. So as an example, last year when we were fishing Reelfoot Lake, I actually had my rigs set at, we're fishing 5 foot of water predominantly. I'm fishing 5 foot of water set 6 foot deep. So just a thought, as far as you think you want to fish 8 foot deep, and you're moving at X amount of miles an hour. There's probably a mathematical formula for that, but I'm not smart enough to figure that out. But just know that when that boat's moving, your bait's coming up a little bit from the depth you got it set at, so you got to compensate for that. The other thing you want to do, this is a tip from a guy who's broken off a lot of gear because he didn't didn't do it is use drift control. Drift control, drift control, drift control. Use this stuff. Don't take it lightly. You'll thank me. When I'm drifting, I almost always go with the wind, especially if I've got drift gear I'm using. If I'm on a small lake or it's a day where there's absolutely no wind whatsoever, I may not use this. But if I do have this out or you got any wind whatsoever, I suggest, my boat's small enough that I only got one trolling battery, right? So it's only got X amount of life on it. It's a new battery, but they wear down after a while. So always drift with the wind if you can. Just it'll save you a lot of stress on your battery and save you from your battery dying in the middle of your day. So drift with the wind. The other thing I did here too, I modified these. This thing's actually got a float in it. It's Bass Pro Shops 30-inch drift sock, but they recommend you put a float on these to kind of keep them on top of the water, and particularly if you're fishing shallow lakes or stumpy areas where you got a lot of timber or a lot of standing stuff. If these things sink, like my other one doesn't have a float in it, and if these things sink, they can get tied up on stumps or logs or treetops or what have you. So I just got me a pool noodle from the Dollar General store and some zip ties. Cut these down to center, slip them on these straps, and voila, I got floats. The point to spider rigging is like you're covering a lot of water, right? So the less time you're fussing with your lines and fussing with your poles and stuff, and you actually got bait in the water running, the more effective you're going to be, right? So I kind of put myself together just a little kit here that if I break something off, it's right behind my seat here. All I got to do is turn around and grab it, and I got all my riggings right here in one bag. Just pull it out, tie it on, off you go. If you don't have those lines in the water, you're not catching fish. If you're fooling around untangling stuff, and it's a mess. So I just keep myself a handy little bag here. I got my rigs, I got bobbers, I got bobber stops. Usually keep a pair of pliers in there too. So when you're spider rigging, you hook a big fish. If that fish starts going sideways, next thing you know, you got 5-6 lines tangled up and destroyed, and you're gonna have to start all over, retying all your lines. So biggest piece of advice I could give you on that is don't play your fish. You don't want to reel your fish in. So I got maybe 8 to 9 feet of line out on a 14-foot pole. So what happens is, say you hook a fish and you reel that fish up to the tip of your pole and you bring it up in the boat, it's 10 feet in the air. So don't reel your fish in. Now if you're fishing deeper, that's a different story. But if you're fishing shallow, 6, 8, even 10 foot, you don't necessarily need to reel the fish up. I hope these tips and tricks make sense to you, and I hope they help you out. Anything to help you be more successful at spider rigging, that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. So if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and give me a subscribe and a like and a share, and we will see you in the next episode. And I don't remember what we're doing, but we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, don't forget to check out our friends at my724outdoors.com on the web and Facebook, and check out my Facebook and Instagram pages. Also coming soon, panfishguy.com. Hey, knock it off!